I would like to show you this book, Lessons with the Masters, because as you can see, we can learn chess in a very cheap way. This book, to me, I think I paid $3, but maybe you can find it for $2 or $1 because it's a very old book. However, the book has some ideas that are very important. The authors, Ken Smith and Larry Evans, say you can only learn chess from watching games. And how do you watch games? You need practically to cover each move and think for yourself what you would play in that situation, and then uncover the move and see what the player did, because the players in questions used in this game are the top, no? The games are like 20 different games that they show, and what else? They also say that the annotations are not going to cover everything. And they say you must stop this idea that the annotations will cover everything, because it's not possible. And so yes, I think this is good as ideas. Also, if of course it make me a little not feeling well, uneasy, because I want the annotations to tell me everything, because sometimes I don't understand. Simply I don't understand. That's a fact. However, another thing, it seems both of them, Larry Evans and Ken Smith, they were good friends with Fischer. And one of the things they write in the introduction, he said, look, Fischer said this, you cannot sit down at the board if you don't have the will to win the game. And Fischer said also, every time he sat down at the board, he wanted to demonstrate who he was, like if he was an unknown player. So again, it's a very small booklet, as you can see, but it's full of chess wisdom. With that said, I would like to present you one game from this book, and you will decide if you like it or not, okay? The game I want to show you is game number 2, that they call Chapter 2. It was played in Nixish in 1983. White is Kasparov and black is Portish. They say this game's theme is a remarkable display of intuition and energy against a solid and resolute opponent. They start the introduction to the game with a position that is very critical, and then they show you the game. Okay, I will just show you the game, and you will try to find your own moves. Garry Kasparov starts with d4, and here it says, this has become world champion Garry Kasparov favorite fourth move. But notice, this is played in 1983. They call Kasparov world champion, which means we know that the book has been published and written after 1985. Knight f6. They say the least committal way of preventing e4. So they say knight f6 is to prevent that he has two pawns in the center. Okay. c4, controlling d5 and intending to answer d5 with c takes d, and if queen takes d5, knight c3 gains time and space. While if black would have played knight takes d5, they say e4 is also good for white. Okay? So they are in reality, they say don't expect the annotation to explain everything, but they are giving a move by move comment of all the game. So clearly they have done a big work, and that's why the book is called Lessons with a Masters, because Larry Evans and Ken Smith, two master chess players, right? I don't know Ken Smith, but definitely Larry Evans was a master chess player. Okay, so after d4, knight f6, c4, what does black play? Notice that Portish, however, in 1983 was one of the top chess players in the world, if I remember well, probably in the first 10 players, okay? And he was multiple time candidate to the World Championship, in the sense that he entered the matches and he played many matches, but unfortunately never reached the end to actually challenge the world champion in the time, Karpov. So e6, indicating a probable Ninso-Indian defense after knight c3 and bishop b4. Let's see what they play. Now, Kasparov obviously wants to bring the game into his own territory, not into the preparation of the opponent. So he knows that if he plays knight c3, he will play bishop b4, and so that's the theoretical opponent preparation, right? So what does Kasparov do in this position? Kasparov plays knight f3. In this way, avoid the Ninso-Indian. But obviously, you cannot avoid the Queen's Indian, which is played after b6. Again, many of these openings, most of them, all go around the fight for e4 or d4. In this case, b6 make you think that he will play bishop b7, so the fight is for e4. They are trying to fight for the control of e4 square. Okay? And now white plays knight c3, right? And this could threaten to start to play e4, but obviously, again, that's why it was played b6. Black played bishop b7, and so he double up the control on the square. But every time you play a move, you give up something to the opponent. In this case, white played a3, because in this way black cannot play bishop b4. And of course, now you need to expand in the center. Notice that they say in the book that you should watch the games from one side and the other. So probably once you have watched all 20 games from white side, for example, then you restart the book and watch all the 20 games from black side. Okay? Here the central expansion is made with d5. Which obviously establish a pawn in the center, and again fight for the control of e4. Okay? C takes d, and here obviously you have two possibilities. One is e takes d5, which help you with the control of e4, but then this kind of become bad and limited, or you have knight takes d5. What is the reason of knight takes d5? Here it says black wishes to simplify by trading off this knight. So that's kind of interesting, right? He traded off this knight. Now, can you play, if you were white, can you play e4 now? No, you can't. Why? Because if you play e4, black will play knight takes c3, b takes c3, and bishop takes c4. Notice that they also say another thing. when you try to give an explanation to yourself of a certain move because the annotation didn't cover it and so on, you must not move the pieces. You must do it all in your head, because in the games you will play, you will not be allowed to touch the pieces and move them over the board, right? So that's why I show you e4 is not good, and I show you like this instead of making the actual move, because I want you to improve your visualization, or at least try. Of course, so what did white play at this point? This is very interesting, right? Because it's a case of them not covering everything. But, for example, where is this thing going? Because this bishop you want to develop it, right? But if you develop it here, you lose it. If you develop here, terrible, because you block that pawn. If you develop here, again, ugly, because it can be kicked right away, right? It can be kicked away right away. So this bishop at the moment is not really developable. Yeah, look at this new word. And so what do you do? How do you continue here, right? Probably you don't want to do this because this guy is already on that diagonal. So what did white play? He played e3. e3, it's interesting because it closes that bishop but open this bishop. And this bishop maybe can go here or can go here to attack, or it can even go here, I don't know. Let's see what happens. But e3 was played. And so that's what, you see, I wasted some time to explain what happens, because, again, they said, you must ask yourself for every move, what would you play and why. Now, the list of questions that they put in the beginning of the book is kind of short. They just say, you must ask yourself questions. But they don't say which questions. And also, they don't say about which the questions that are the forcing moves, like can I give check? Can I take an opponent piece? Can I attack something? These forcing questions should have been put probably in the beginning of the book, I think. I didn't see them, so maybe it's my fault, but I didn't see them. Okay, after this e3, what is black going to do? As we can see, he wanted already to simplify, which means to exchange pieces. Why? Maybe Portish was afraid of his opponent, of a young Kasparov. And so he wants to go into an endgame that is drawish, and when the endgame is drawish, he is able to draw with black against Kasparov. That in 1983 was already known as a very strong player, right? Top of the world player. So obviously Portish didn't want to fight him with black. He wanted just to draw. And maybe that's what we return to Fischer statement. He says, it doesn't make any sense if you sit down at the board and you don't want to win. You must win, win, win at every cost, right? So that's Fischer's point. So Portish played knight takes c3, and here he says simplifying and closing the half open c file. So this was kind of open, now it's closed. Why? Because he has to take back. And why it's closed now? Because so white cannot put pressure on this. Notice also that this move has created an isolated pawn here, which can be attacked, right? But obviously he gave white a kind of majority in the center. Okay, how did black continue here? he played bishop e7. Here they put a note saying that g6 is unusual. The idea obviously is to play this, but it's possible. Okay, so the fact that it wasn't played doesn't mean that it's bad. It's a possibility. And that's good. As you can see, they say we cannot answer all the questions with our annotation, but in my opinion, they are doing really a great job in this book because they are really giving you a lot of annotation. This is really move by move. So, how does white continue here? White needs to develop the pieces because this is move 9. We still need to finish the opening, right? So in the opening, the fourth task is to develop all our pieces. Another task of the opening is to castle. Another task of the opening is to connect the rooks. Okay? So what did white play? White played bishop b5, check. Why this move is interesting? Because it's asking the question to black, what are you going to do now? And if he doesn't play this, that obviously is not ideal, probably because of this, if black plays this and black did play that, you know what happens? That he has closed the diagonal, so this bishop is bad now. Okay, so again, if he played this is totally a mistake because there is this, and you they say winning a piece. Yeah, probably because also if you play this, then it can follow with this. Okay, so it becomes a mess. And again, like I told you, knight d7, again, not strong enough because there is this, you cannot escape, and then there is also that possibility, right? So, yeah. So, obviously, the only good move was c6, but this good move is not so good. Why? Because it closed the diagonal. And obviously, the activity of the pieces is very important, because you cannot tell me this is a value 3, what we generally think of the bishop or the knight, if he controls nothing, if he's like a pawn, because in this point, in this moment, is a pawn, right? He's just defending this. He has control of the square like a pawn. So, is this 3? No, this is 1. And notice also go back, you cannot go anywhere. So the position, black position start to be a little tight. And now what do you think white did? Once he made him lose time with this and close the diagonal, he went back because the young Kasparov was known to be a very strong attacker. So he's already starting to attack and prepare the pieces to attack on there. Of course, why it makes sense? Because generally there is a defender here, that is the knight f6. But now the knight f6 is gone, so it makes sense. Okay? And of course, black probably need knight d7 and knight f6 to have another defender of h7. Okay, so how did black continue here? He played c5. And here they say black wants to open the c file later. Also the queen bishop diagonal is reopened. Okay, for example, now they should have put a note and explain to you why bishop b5 is not good, right? And I urge you to pause the video and find it out. To me, it took me a couple of seconds, maybe 10 seconds while I was talking, The reason is that now c5 has given this square access to c8. No? So when you get attack, right? You say, oops, op. You see, so this I found it out just watching the thing, but this is a question that you should ask yourself, right? And so you should find out the reason for that. Okay, now that black played this, what should white play? White needs to do one of the tasks of the opening, which is to castle. Sometimes you don't want to castle too fast or too early because you give a target to your opponent, but in this case more or less he already has a target and you cannot castle on that side, right? Because it's totally open. So obviously Kasparov played castle because this is also in the center. So Kasparov in the beginning was really a dangerous player, because if you left your king in the center, and I have seen it in few of his young games, in the center for just a couple of moves more, he would take advantage of it and kill you. So you must be careful with that. Okay, after castle, they say white intends to mass his pieces behind his central pawns. So as we can see, they say Kasparov will play rook e1 and then push the pawns. Black continue with knight c6, and they say black tries to hinder white's plan by pressuring the central d4. Now you have a kind of bishop that is also a pawn, the bishop c1, that needs to be developed, but where? In this case, Kasparov put it here, because he wants to move this, but he needs to protect d4. So that's what he does. In this case, he's not really a pawn, because his actions exert over the diagonal. It exerts on protecting d4, but it also, if d4 is pushed, it can become a checkmate danger, a checkmate threat on g7. So be careful of this move. It seems kind of just having a pawn here, but it's something more. There is something more. Okay. However, obviously there could have been something like this, right? This was another possibility. Again, it's up to you. At a certain point in chess, it's up to you what you feel and what you don't feel. Black continue with rook c8. And here there is a diagram. So what is the reason of rook c8? It's because it prevents white from playing queen c2. Okay? And this again is something that is a projected thing. It's an X-ray attack. If at a certain point this open, boom, the attack is there. So you cannot really put the queen in a place that there is a rook on the same file and the pawns could be exchanged, because that would be dangerous. But again, the last task of the opening is to connect the rooks. So how do you do it here? How do you connect the rooks, right? Well, you connect the rooks with queen e2. Why queen e2? Because it can also be used to play e4 and e5, followed by this and attacking there. So as you can see from this game, you are learning also a lot of tactical maneuvers that can allow you to win the game. Okay, I had to get a pit stop because after a certain age you need some time, especially after 24 minutes of video. Maybe that's a reason why the streamers are only young people. Okay, so we played queen e2, and now it's black time to try to finish his development, right? And he plays castle, because obviously he cannot castle on the other side. There was only this side. You don't want to keep it in the center. Now they say this thing that for me is not precise. They say now black's development is complete, but white's strong pawn center gives him edge. For me, the black development is not complete up to the moment the two rooks are connected. Okay. Rook AD1 is the following move. So why, before obviously you are in this position, you need to decide a plan, right? What do you do here? Do you attack on the queen side? Do you attack in the center? Do you attack on the king side? On the king side, there are clearly at the moment not enough pieces to overcome the defenses. Generally you have these three pawns, this thing, at least three pieces are needed to fight here, right? So white cannot do that. What does white do? He plays this move, which by the way, like I told you, it stays on the file where the queen is, right? Which means, what do you think will be blackness move? He will immediately remove the queen from that file. And you will see, I still didn't see the move, but I'm 100% sure. Do you know why? Because I told you the same thing would happen for queen c2. And I have noticed in game after game of this strong grandmaster that that's what they do. Boom, immediately. Let's see, I'm right. We are move 14, he played queen c7. And he says, clearing d8 for the king rook. So this rook to go there. And hoping for opportunities on the c file. Okay, so up to this moment, it seems that this position was known theoretically. So in the theoretical opening theory, this was known. But now Kasparov plays a novelty. What do you think Kasparov played? So try to pause the video and find out what you would play, because this is a very important moment. Now, by the way, for me, at this point, the development of both sides is finished, so we are in the middle game. And when you are in the middle game, you need to do what? You need to create your own plan. In another video, I have shown you the thinking that Silman did, no? In his book, that is this. Oops. Okay. And of course, now you can use that thinking method to create your own plan. Or of course, you can find another book that maybe will give you a list of questions to create a plan in this situation. Kasparov played this move, c4, boom. This is a new idea, they say, in this well-analyzed position. Previously, white had gone e4. So why is this great? Because now, like I told you, this queen bishop is directing his X-ray attack on g7, so there will be a possibility to attack the king side. Okay? Okay, so what did black play? They played c takes d. They say here in the book that bishop f6 is not good. Okay? And the reason is because of this. If you take there, you lose a piece because it takes here. If you take back, it takes. Okay, so bishop. And then of course there are other notes related to bishop f6 that explain it even better. Okay, so guys, eventually get this little booklet because it's clearly full of wisdom, and I like it very much. It's simple, but it's full of wisdom. They don't try to pretend they are really the smartest guys in the room. Okay. So, C takes D, E takes D, and here they say white must keep his pawns intact. Very poor is knight takes D4 because of knight E5. So that would be really bad. Yeah. So here you can learn something about pawn structure. This pawn structure is bad. This pawn structure is good. Also if this is bad. Okay. How does black continue? Black played knight E5. Now it seems black has good play against white's weakened C4 pawn, because everybody is amassing on there, right? But I told you that the young Kasparov was no joke, and he cared about attacking. He really cared about attacking. He was like Tal, with the difference that his sacrifices generally were correct. So here again, pause the video, try to find out the next move by white, because it's a great move. Okay? Okay, so D5 is the next move played by Kasparov, and here they say a dynamic pawn sacrifice whose main idea is to open up both white bishops against the poorly guarded black king side, because this is here instead of here. And notice there is a beautiful game by Lasker in which he had this kind of bishops all pointing at the black king side, and as you can see, Kasparov was able to do something like that, to replicate a game like that, because he understood probably Lasker deeper than the average club player. So what does black do? Now there are a lot of analysis on knight c4 and other moves here, but I will not give them to you because we are already at 42 minutes video, so I guess you are kind of bored by me talking. And now I will go through the game. E takes D, of course C takes D, and as you can see in this position, it doesn't matter that you lose this thing, because all the central lines are open, and when the central lines are open, the bishops become very, very strong. Okay? Bishop takes d5. And now again, please, pause the video, because otherwise you're not learning anything. That's what they tell you. You need to ask yourself every time what will be the next move. They say to use a little card to cover the next move, but here you can do it thanks to me, that I tell you, pause the video, find the next move. So what is your next move? Boom! Bishop takes h7. A pseudo sacrifice to blast away an important defensive pawn. Obviously it's forced to take, but then imagine now he has a rook that can go there, this can go there, everybody can go there. It's crazy. This situation is crazy. Would you have imagined in just 4 moves before that this would be the situation over the board? I would have not. I really think this game must be studied a couple of times and memorized, because it's something we can use in our own games. Okay. Obviously the threat here is this. I don't know if you saw it, guys, but once he goes here, rook h5, queen h7, checkmate. Okay. So after rook takes d5, king g8. He tries to escape, but again, pause the video, like I told you. Now you don't want, you need to think, what would you play now? And this is, believe me, it's the same game Lasker played. 100 years before these guys. Not 100, maybe just 80 years, let's say. Asker played, boom, bishop takes g7, amazing move. So the king was trying to hide, they say, but this move proves that there is nowhere where you want to hide. King takes g7, okay. And obviously now again, boom, knight e5, a nice quiet move which brings up another piece to the attack while giving the queen access to the g5. So this move is fundamental because the queen needs to enter the game. Rook fd8, and here there are a lot of analysis related to what black could have done. Sorry if I don't give them to you, but the video is becoming like 40 minutes long, and I guess you have something better to do with your life, but you want to see the end, right? Queen g4 check, king f8, and now obviously there is another move which is queen f5 threatening checkmate on here. Again, there is bishop d6, a possibility, but in the game he played f6. After f6, what do you think white played? And this is kind of important. Really, you need to pause the video and do this exercise. Try to find the right move for white. Because if you play knight g6 check, it's wrong. Because black will play this move, king g7, and there is no checkmate. Instead, here there is this move, knight d7 check. After this, there is this move. What would you play here also? Because this is kind of interesting. He played obviously this. Boom. Queen c5. Obviously he is trying to trade the queens, because if he's trading the queens, at least he tries to survive, enter something. But would you trade the queen in an attack? No, obviously you don't, right? Hop. Queen h7, rook c7, right? And now there is queen h8 check. Once more, here there are a lot of analysis that they have done for you guys in case you have questions, but I'm trying to go through and finish before 50 minutes. King f7, rook d3, knight c4, it tries to return to defend, but it's a little too late. Rook f d1. So as you can see, this will control this, and this will enter and try probably to give checkmate. Of course, black made a mistake here with knight e5. It seems that the best move was bishop d6, but again white will win. So knight e5, it's a big mistake. How does white continue? With queen h7 check, king e6, queen g8 check, king f5, g4 check, king f4. And when you generally start to do this, I mean, you know that it's not gonna end well, right? Rook d4 check, king f3, and now there is another check which forces mate. Okay, how? With this queen b3 check. If you play here queen c3, there is queen d5. Okay, and on king e2 there is queen e3. So king e2, queen e3. This checkmate. Now let's see this. Queen c3. They say queen d5 mate. I don't see the mate because I think he can play this, right? But again, it's just a question of time, and you die here, right? Because this try this and this, and the game is over, right? So thank you very much for watching. This was game number 2 from this beautiful book, Lessons with the Masters by Larry Evans and Ken Smith. Obviously the book was printed a long time ago in our standards, but it's really good. As you can see, the games selected are very exciting and you can learn a lot, and they really try to give a good amount of annotation, because to me it looks like move by move. So they really did their job, and for just $3, I mean, it's really to get a lesson that is worth more than $100 just for one game, right? Thank you very much.